University and head of AAU Europe office, we acknowledge your presence, ma'am. The Executive Director of SARO, Professor Stephen Simkanga, delegates to this august event, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to our inaugural conversations of higher education and development issues under the banner of the Association of African Universities Southern Africa Regional Office. 12 countries, as you have heard, out of the 16 SADC states are represented here today, and we appreciate this representation. 11, these countries actually include Botswana, Angola, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mauritius, Namibia, South Africa, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. All these countries, it is very pleasing to note that they are represented at the highest levels of academia, a reflection of commitment by academia to the development and integration of our region. This has to actually contribute significantly to regional consensus on the role of academia in the development trajectory of our region. So we appreciate the presence of all these representatives. The Association of African Universities, ladies and gentlemen, is the continental voice of higher education. So at this level, at the regional office level, we are also replicating what's happening at the secretariat level. We are also a voice of higher education within our region as the regional office for AAU. AAU is a member-based organization of which Women's University in Africa is a member and in good standing. AAU has actually decentralized its services through the establishment of regional offices, including the Southern Africa Regional Office, hosted by Women's University in Africa, based in Zimbabwe. WUA and AAU signed an MOU in September 2023 to host the Southern Africa Regional Office, and to operationalize this MOU. As a university, we decided to have a regional governance structure to promote inclusivity and transparency on the issues of higher education in Southern Africa. I'm glad today that we are in earnest operationalizing the MOU, and 6 countries have actually submitted board nominees for consideration and presentation here today by the AAU Secretary General for appointment. As Women's University in Africa, we have commenced construction of a building that will house the AAU Southern Africa Regional Office, and preparations are underway at an advanced stage as we speak for the launch of the offices on the 27th of September this year. And by this, I also extend the same invitation to you all to be part of this august occasion of the 27th of September, where we are going to be officially launching the Southern Africa Regional Office of the AAU. The gesture by the university itself shows our total commitment to this partnership and the importance that the partnership has in terms of strengthening higher education, particularly as we forge ahead with globalization through internationalization of higher education, but of course with a unique focus on our unique context as Southern Africa. So that will be our defining point. We are calling upon all relevant organizations to partner with the Association of African Universities Southern Africa Regional Office to tap on experiences and the pool of resources available in the region for continuation of the work of the regional office. As a regional office, we feel we will be a safe space for dialogue and policy debates, a safe space for conversations around education, higher education, a safe space for conversations around the integration of our region from the perspective of the role of academia. We believe through our office, capacity strengthening of the members of the Southern Africa Regional Office, as well as a promotion of harmonization and standardization for competitiveness. Networking and interinstitutional collaborations will be some of the activities that will be performed by the office. Secretary General say, I want to assure you that our expertise as Women's University in Africa in gender equality issues will also be availed to the region through institutional gender audits, webinars, seminars, and other capacity strengthening initiatives around gender transformative approaches and gender integration in the region. The regional board is going to develop its strategic plan, which will be availed possibly at the official launch of the regional offices in September. But as a secretariat, we'll ensure that the regional board serves its purpose to tackle the regional agenda on higher education. As I conclude my remarks, my task is to welcome you all and facilitate the establishment of the governance structure whose main activities will be tabled on the 27th of September towards the end of this year. So I call upon those universities in the region that are not yet AAU members to subscribe so that we also speak on higher education issues in the region with one voice. This is the beginning of a grand initiative to promote regional integration around higher education issues in our region. I thank you. Over to you, Director of Ceremonies.
Thank you, Professor Chingarande, for these welcoming words to our delegates, Vice Chancellors. You have heard the call by the Vice Chancellor of the Women's University in Africa to become members of the AAU so that we speak with one voice. And this is now your safe space for all these issues as we conduct the agenda for the region. Professor Chingarande, ma'am, can I please also request you to present or to introduce the Chief Executive Officer of the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education, Professor Kuzvinetsa Peter Nzvimbo.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished guests, a renowned academic, distinguished who has distinguished himself in the higher and tertiary education sector, not only in Zimbabwe, but in Africa. The person that I'm introducing is currently the CEO for the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education, who has served as Deputy Vice Chancellor and Vice Principal for Academic and Research at the Vaal University of Technology in South Africa. He has also served as a founding executive dean of the College of Education at the University of South Africa. He has played a crucial role in educational policy development, including assisting the Department of Basic Education in establishing a center for continuing professional development for school principals and editing the Africa Education Review. From 2003 to 2007, this distinguished administrator, scholar, you name it, he wears so many hats. He has actually led the African Virtual University in Nairobi as CEO and rector under a World Bank project focusing on open distance and e-learning across Anglophone and Francophone African countries with operations in Dakar, Senegal. He has also served as a senior education specialist at the World Bank in Washington, D.C., supporting higher and tertiary education sectors globally. In Zimbabwe, he has held several key positions, such as founding Vice Chancellor of the Zimbabwe Open University, various roles at the University of Zimbabwe, including Pro-Vice Chancellor. His academic background His academic background includes a PhD in educational policy studies from the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and he has contributed. His educational journey actually began with a BA in history in African politics and English from Fore Bay College in the University of Sierra Leone, followed by secondary education at St. Francis Xavier College, Kutama in Zimbabwe. He has also engaged in teaching and consultancy roles in Mozambique, South Africa, and internationally, demonstrating a commitment to advancing education, quality, and access. Distinguished delegates, allow me to introduce you to Professor Kuzvinetsa Peter Dzvimbo, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education. Over to you, Professor Dzvimbo, CEO, sir.
Good day. Can you hear me?
Yes, CEO, we can hear you well.
Thank you. It's a very good morning to all of you. My special thanks to Professor Dominica Chingarande for organizing this very unique event where all of us who are working in African institutions, especially on the African continent, are talking together about issues that are critical in terms of transforming our higher education system. So what I'm going to talk about is really to talk about the transformation of the African university and lessons from the Zimbabwean higher education system. Universities are key drivers for the transformation of our societies. As a key driver for the higher education system, especially in this country, and that's common as well in other African countries, our own universities take their cue from the vision of higher education that has been adopted by Zimbabwe, but more specifically being driven by our Ministry of Higher Education in this country. Thus, for us, the transformation of the Zimbabwean university, and one can even talk and say the transformation of the African university, is encapsulated by the futuristic vision of building world-class universities in this country and also on the African continent, by basing our reforms of higher education on our different philosophical positions, on our different visionary positions that are espoused by our own countries. For us, the first port of call is obviously the leadership at the institutional level, at the faculty level, and at the departmental levels. For me, leadership at these levels should be seen as sustained passion for and commitment to a proactive shared vision and its implementation by vice chancellors, deputy vice chancellors, deans, directors, and chairpersons of departments in all our institutions. Leadership is therefore both at the macro and micro levels in the university, and it must have the ability to leverage and rally teams of academics, including students, towards achieving the vision and objectives of the university as far as transformation of that African university is concerned. The issue is, how do we build the entrepreneurial and innovative university? The African university must be an entrepreneurial university and innovative university, which is concerned with the present and also the future. So the issue of futures research becomes very critical in our university discussions or discourse practices, whether it is at the departmental level, faculty level, and at the institutional level. The focus, ladies and gentlemen, must be on reforming the university as a transformative and innovative enterprise, with a particular focus on the following. Number one, the first focus is on changes of its genetic code that impacts on the teaching, on research, on innovation, on industrialization, and its relationship to society inside out, because we as universities are there to ensure that our society is developed fully so that we can increase the speed at which all these economies are developing. Therefore, the focus must be on discovery-driven planning at the institutional, faculty, departmental, and center levels. We must also begin to develop innovation hubs that are now the center of developing an entrepreneurial university, especially in our country. What then must be the focus in terms of the production and distribution of knowledge by a university on the African continent, or more specifically for us here in Zimbabwe? This is a key area as we focus on developing creative scholars in the academy, committed to a critical learning and the development of a decolonial epistemic and a transformative agenda which enables students and staff to do a critical analysis of concepts and knowledge that they're exposed to in the academy and as communities of inquiry. So this is necessary because our role is to develop these universities. Our role is to develop these universities so that they are part and parcel of the socio-economic, technological and economic development of our countries. And for me, the idea is the insertion of transformative learning as transformation in perspective, in a frame of reference, in a personal paradigm, and in a habit of mind, together with its resulting points of view. This is a quote from somebody called Brookfield. Transformative learning is a transformation in perspective. Our perspective, the perspective of the university, in a frame of reference that we use in a particular university, and in personal paradigms of those of us that teach, that conduct research, and that learn in these universities. It has connotations of what I call an epiphanic or apocalyptic cognitive event, because it must bring about change in the university, but also change in our people and change in our societies. Therefore, the focus of an innovative university in our context, especially on the African context in particular, must be on the following: using better plans to build breakthroughs, even ideation across the university in faculties and departments. And number two, by focusing on sophisticated innovations that share similar components at their core to enhance teaching and learning. The main mandate of a university is teaching, learning, research, innovation, etc., etc. So I'm saying the focus must then be on sophisticated innovations that address issues that are faced by our people and by our societies and by our countries. And number three, I'm saying there's a need to deconstruct and distill the work of successful innovations and use them as the building blocks of new concepts as they emerge in departments and faculties in all our universities. The focus, ladies and gentlemen, is inter alia on how the leadership creatively introduces new innovations in teaching, in research, and in innovation, and the work that they do in our centers that we do research, in those centers that our research is then translated into a product, into a good, or even into a service. Therefore, we need to rethink and reimagine the whole area of developing our academics so that they can focus on the following: the university is an academic enterprise which is at the center of the development and industrialization of our countries. And number two, knowledge management at the macro and micro levels of the university as it leads in the industrialization of our countries. Because the focus of the university is to make changes in our economy, to make changes in our societies, to make changes among our people, and even to make changes among the students as they prepare to go and work in our economies. And number three, how knowledge, power, and dissent are played out in the contestations in the academy at all levels to bring about change. Ladies and gentlemen, the university is a contested terrain. That's what I'm trying to emphasize there. Number four, how strategic choices are introduced, contested, and implemented in the university. And five, how academics are critical in changing the genetic code of the university inside out. Therefore, in pushing the research and innovation agenda, we need to do the following, and we need to have the following. Number one, have authentic leadership at all levels in the university, obviously starting with our vice chancellors, then our deans, our heads of departments, etc. And number two, a focus on the context and orientation of leadership in the academy and the inspirational tension among teaching, learning, research, and innovation in our departments, in our faculties and the universities. There is actually that creative and even inspirational tension that plays itself out, and we must take advantage of it to improve our agendas for innovation in our universities. And number three, risk-taking and creativity at both the macro and micro levels in the university. And number four, the performance pipeline, obviously, in our departments, in our faculties, and at institutional levels, to ensure that the entire institution is focused and geared towards the development of new knowledge that focuses on solutions for our country's socioeconomic, cultural, technological, and even industrial development. That's really the fons et origio of an entrepreneurial university. But I'm also saying this means developing a leadership at the micro and even at the macro level that sees the need for strategic leadership and thinking in a volatile and unpredictable higher education environment. Even the society where our universities are located, it is very volatile and it is changing very rapidly. That's what I'm trying to put across here. And number two, that can communicate the national and institutional vision and strategy to staff and stakeholders so that our universities can begin to fully grapple with what leadership at a national level and at an institutional level is talking about in terms of inserting a development agenda in what we do in our universities. And we are also saying it's a leadership that can articulate and support change and transformation in the university, especially in light of generative AI and the metaverse. We can no longer ignore the impact of artificial intelligence in our institutions. And I'm saying number four, can develop individual leader capabilities of our executive directors, deans, and heads of departments, because these are the people that are at the center of the leadership of the institution, the developing institution, or the university in an African country, or the university in a developing country. But that they also understand the total enterprise of a university who can work together to achieve the reform agenda. Because the essence, the fons et origio of our universities at the moment is to push, to spur socio-economic, political, industrial, and technological development in our countries. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, to achieve these goals, we need to develop a creative dimension and tensions of our institutional strategies by evolving the institutional genetic code of the university on developing new cartographies of knowledge and responding to the needs of our countries, our society, our people, etc., etc. We also need to work and develop this creative dimension and tensions in our universities by backing winners and culling the losers. We have to be honest to ourselves. If people are not doing their job properly, they must be culled. So that's what I'm saying here, that we back winners and cull losers at the departmental, faculty, and institutional levels. And we must also focus on growth in the key areas of teaching, research, innovation, and learning across the board. And now with the affordances of ICTs, we are very lucky because we now have a way in which we can reach as many students as is possible. And also, number four, we must create a new ecosystem as far as research, innovation, industrialization, and commercialization of new knowledge is concerned in our universities. And finally, in terms of how to achieve these goals, we also need to develop agility circles across the universities to push the innovative agenda. So our circles, our teams, our groups, they must be agile so that they're able to address the key issues that affect us in our universities. And I'm saying that agility circle that we need to introduce across the board can take this form in our universities. Excuse me. It must involve and encourage our staff. It must coach and explain our staff to our staff and our students. We must command and teach at the same time. We must empower and monitor. We must delegate and ask. And we must inspire and let go ideas that are visionaries. I just want to really end by making sure that one of the things that we need to do in these universities as we are talking about change and development, both economic, political, technological, and social, we really need to talk about the diffusion of change that we must pay attention to. You can look at this as stages. For instance, the denial and opposition to change. Reasons will change from academic, intellectual to personal and political. I'm very interested in that area of exploration. In our universities, this is the role that we play. We are explorers. We are pathfinders. This is a state of mind when we realize that change is here to stay, and change is the essence of our development, and change is the motive force that pushes us forward. This is where the university and the higher education system in general, and the nation at large, in most of our countries, can begin to focus on the development of the higher education system based on that locality, based on its history, and based on its heritage. And in Zimbabwe, we are calling it Heritage-Based Education 5.0, which talks to our Vision 2030. And I know many countries have got a Vision 2030, but in Zimbabwe, we also focus on a number of things that includes national development and strategies. So we must be able to accept our feelings and the range of what we do, whether it is reluctance or commitment, and even total conviction and the full support that we must bring about in our universities as far as change and development is concerned as we go forward, whether in the classroom, whether in the lecture room, whether in the field where we're doing experiments in agriculture, in mining, in technology, etc., etc. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, when change and transformation is being accepted in the university, what we see is the idea that we must continually ask what it is that we're doing to transform the university and explore in the process. And number two, we must continually envision the present and the future so that we really become learning organization, a la Peter Senge, in terms of how we cope with a changing environment that surrounds us. And then also planning and accepting and then commitment to the process of change. Ladies and gentlemen, in these African institutions, which are in the process of development so that they can be part and parcel of catapulting our institutions and our countries into the 21st century, ours is therefore a quest for strategy making in these turbulent times in our universities, and then develop dynamic models of leading and managing the university as opined by Mankins and Gottefson. Number two, we will need leaders at the vice-chancellor level, at the dean's level, and at the heads of departments that inspire and demonstrate a passion for excellence in every aspect of their academic and non-academic work, and have the ability, the know-how, the knowledge, and the passion to invite dissent at every level of the university. If you can't invite dissent as a leader at whatever level you are, you may begin to have problems. Because of the role of an entrepreneurial and creative leader, it is not to have all ideas, but to create a culture where everyone can have ideas and feel that they are valued. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to this short presentation. I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can hear you.
Thank you very much, Professor Njimbo. Wow, what a rich presentation and a guide to the incoming AAU SARO board. I'm sure the issues which our chief regulator has raised are going to be your framework as you come up with the regional agenda. something interesting I got from the Chief Executive Officer. He mentioned, I lost count on the areas where you were mentioning issues of leadership in institutions of higher learning. You are giving emphasis on leadership development. You are also giving emphasis on communication on national issues. Now we are going to add more to our chief regulator in terms of regional vision. So you are going to also be guiding our board on what could be in the agenda for the region. I was very much interested on the issues you raised in terms of emerging issues, the artificial intelligence. This is a threat or a strength. I wouldn't want to judge on that as far as institutions of higher learning are concerned. You also touched on issues of heritage-based education, which Zimbabwe has adopted. I'm sure as a region, our incoming board is also going to be looking at those issues. Thank you so much, Professor Njimbo. I'm sure all the vice chancellors here present and listening got something to take away from your presentation. We want to extend our sincere appreciation for always ready to come and assist your universities as the regulator and also a renowned academic and a renowned publisher. So we want to convey our sincere thank you for the very best presentation. At the moment, I'm now going to call upon our Vice Chancellor, Professor Chingarande, to introduce the AAU Secretary General. The Association of African Universities is the voice of higher education in Africa. It is also the implementing agent for the African Union, as the African Union is running with the Agenda 2063 in issues of higher education. AAU is the implementing agent. Now your university in Zimbabwe is now going to be hosting the sub-regional office of AAU. So I am requesting Madam Vice Chancellor, Professor Chingarande, to introduce our Secretary General, Professor Oyele. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. Distinguished guests, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you a distinguished person in our midst who holds the position of Professor of Food Science and Technology, specializing in food microbiology and biotechnology at the Federal University of Agriculture in Nigeria, where he is also currently on sabbatical leave. Previously, he served as Vice Chancellor of the university from 2012 to 2017. With over 36 years of experience in African higher education, Professor Oyele has authored over 100 scholarly publications. His career spans significant roles such as senior expert at the African Union Commission in Ethiopia, focusing on quality assurance, mobility, and scholarships. He has coordinated the British government-sponsored project at the Association of African Universities, promoting regional initiatives for higher education revitalization from 2007 to 2009. His contributions also extend to international platforms, including his role as project officer for the World Bank's Quality Assurance for Higher Education, African Higher Education Systems from 2006 to 2009. He has a very strong background in coordinating multinational research and development programs and advocating for research funding. At the African Union, he oversaw the Mwalimu Nyerere scheme, encompassing initiatives like the African Quality Rating Mechanisms, the Mwalimu Nyerere Scholarship Program, and the African EU ACP Mobility Program. He currently serves on the advisory board of the OECD Program on Innovation, Higher Education, Research, and Research for Development. and as sub-cluster coordinator for the African Union Commission's Continental Education Strategy for Africa on Research and Graduate Studies. His professional interests include quality assurance, leadership and management in African higher education systems, as well as research system development. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you Professor Olusola Oyewole, the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities. Over to you, Secretary General. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sudungura Dominica Shingarana, the Vice Chancellor of the Women University in Africa in Zimbabwe. I thank you for that introduction. Let me also appreciate the presence of Professor Juliet Tundahalana, who is in charge of the AAU Europe Regional Office, who is connected to this meeting at this particular time. I want to appreciate the excellent presentation that has been made by Professor Peter Zembo, just now the CEO of the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education. I want to thank all the vice chancellors, all the academicians, and even university administrators who are connected to this meeting today. I'm very glad that we are finally setting up and opening the Southern Africa Regional Office of the Association of African Universities. For many years, it has been easy for universities in Africa to collaborate and partner with universities in the North, to the extent that we ignored collaborating with each other. South-South collaboration in African universities has been missing, and this is impacting on the quality of our development. Now, there is an urgent need for us in Africa to promote South-South collaboration among ourselves. And for this to happen, we need to know each other. This is one of the philosophy behind the intention of the Association of African Universities to set up regional offices. We believe that where we are supporting North-South collaboration, let us make it a triangular collaboration, South-South-North collaboration. And with this, we'll be able to enhance more of our development and partnering among ourselves. Very soon, AAU will be launching the new strategic plan 2024-2030, and we'll be sharing with you the focus of AAU. But permit me today to let you know that AAU is concerned with research. We want to encourage research into higher education, science and technology, quality assurance, leadership development, our climate change, sustainable development goals, among others. AAU is committed to this. AAU is also committed to promoting higher education access and mobility. And we hope that we will be able to encourage such exchange programs within university, between our universities. We also hope that through AAU, we promote youth mobility within the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some emerging issues that universities in Africa must be connected to. Issues like artificial intelligence, use of technology for teaching and learning, digital skill development. AAU is committed to promoting and helping universities in Africa to respond to this. One important activity that AAU has been known for is that of higher education capacity building and empowerment. We support capacity building of different stakeholders in the African higher education space. Recently, we've had capacity building for librarians, registrars, quality assurance officers, graduate school leadership, among others. We believe that as we set up these regional offices, these activities can take place in these regional offices. We hope that very soon we also be able to get our universities to even talk about TVET, to talk about academia industry linkages. We hope that as regional offices will be able to galvanize our institutions to work on these areas. Ladies and gentlemen, quality is very important to us in Africa. And one of the focus of AU is to ensure the quality of teaching and learning within the African higher education space. There are new issues that are emerging, and we need to challenge our university to this: entrepreneurship, smart university systems. These are things that we hope that we need to help our universities to develop. Our organization, the Association of African Universities, we are currently the lead partner in terms of World Bank Centers of Excellence Initiative in West and Central Africa. The experience we've gained in this, we hope will be able to transmit to other regions of Africa. AAU is an advocacy platform for collaboration within the African system, and with our regional net coming up in Africa, we hope we'll be able to do this more. Very importantly, let me also mention to you that we are developing what we call the African Research Innovation and Development Network. This will help us to network researchers working in the same areas together within the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, you may probably be asking, what will be the functions of the regional offices that we are setting up? I'm glad that the Vice Chancellor of the Women Universities in Africa, Zimbabwe, Professor Shinegara, had already outlined them. By the Southern African Regional Office that we are setting up now, will be that center, that regional office will be promoting policy debates on issues connected with development in Africa. They will also be promoting collaboration in the areas of research for development. I'm sure that as soon as they take off, they will have to develop some capacity strengthening initiatives for various categories. And I'm sure that gender is one of the major items in this particular regional office that we are setting up today. I am looking forward to this center promoting networking among researchers within the Southern African regional space. Last week, I was with the executive director of SARO, and he has given us full support for this regional office that we are setting up. And I'm looking forward to the AAU regional office that we are setting up in Africa, collaborating with the Southern Africa, with SARO, in developing and promoting regional agenda in South Africa. I want to welcome all of us that are connected to this inaugural program. And one of the things we want to do today is to announce the AAU SARO board for 2024 to 2028. Through the conversation that we had before now, I want to put forward the following people who will be the SARO board for the period 2024 and 2028. The first person on my list, for sure, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the Vice Chancellor of the Women University in Africa, Professor Sunungurai Dominica Shinegaranda. Thank you very much for accepting to be part of this. Let me also mention that joining her will be Dr. Erod Naumab, Vice Chancellor of Namibia University of Science and Technology in Namibia, Professor Romela Mohi of the Higher Education Commission in Mauritius, Professor Isaac Olushola Fajana, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lesotho, Dr. Ignatius Inzer, the Dean of Law, Zimbabwe Open University, Professor Stephen Simunkanga of the Southern African Regional Universities Association, SARO, and Dr. Patsani Kumambala, the head, dean, and college director of the Longwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. As mentioned earlier on, we are still coming back in September to launch the office, and I guess that between now and then, this SARO board will have met, and just as was promised earlier on, they will have been able to put together their strategic plan and then highlight exactly the roles we'll be playing in the African higher education space. I want to once again thank every one of us for coming. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Professor Oyewole, the Secretary General for the Association of African Universities, for the very rich presentation on the agenda of AAU, and also announcing the 7 board nominees currently. Maybe I can hand over to you, Captain, because it's my question. So I'm going to chair the meeting together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our apologies for the interruption in the presentation. I was acknowledging the appointment of the AAU SARO board by the Secretary General, where he has confirmed that the board members are Professor Chingarande, the Vice Chancellor of WUA, Professor Nao Mabu, the Vice Chancellor of National Universities of Science and Technology in Namibia. The other countries represented are Malawi, Lesotho, Mauritius, Zimbabwe from the Zimbabwe Open Universities, and the Executive Director of SARUA. Welcome on board, and congratulations for the appointment. Before I go to the next item on the agenda, I also want to highlight the areas which the Secretary General also emphasized, which also become your framework as you are the incoming board. He emphasized on the issues of the functions or what the regional office should focus on, particularly on issues of research, quality assurance, leadership development. Leadership development is coming again from the AAU, the issues of STEM, science and technology, the issues of access to higher education and mobility, and the issues of exchange programs. He also raised the issues, the emerging issues of artificial intelligence and the use of technology in teaching and learning. He also raised the issues of capacity building at all levels at the institutions of higher learning. He also emphasized that AAU is an advocacy platform, and the role of the regional offices is to promote policy debates, to promote collaborations in research and development, to also look at issues of capacity building for various categories, and to promote networking among researchers in the region. He also emphasized the issues of collaborations and emphasized that as AAU SARO, we also work with SARUA. Thank you so much, Professor Oyewole, the Secretary General for the Association of African Universities, and congratulations to the new appointees into the AAU SARO board. The job is just starting. So I am going to request the Vice Chancellor of the National University of Science and Technology in Namibia, Professor Nao Mabu, to give remarks as the newly appointed board members. Professor Nao Mabu, say.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Director of Proceedings. I believe I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Wonderful. I'm also quite visible, I believe.
Yes, we can see you.
Wonderful. I'm delighted to first recognize the presence of all the delegates at this inaugural platform, and also by extension, particularly Professor Sunigare Dominica Chingarete, of the Women's University of Vice Chancellor of the Women's University for hosting us. And also in the same vein, Professor Peter Chivumbo, as well as the Secretary General of the AAU, Professor Sankurai Dominica Chingarete, and other members who are on this platform. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to share foresight with my fellow Vice Chancellors in fostering a transformative agenda in higher education across the sub-Saharan Africa, and particularly with respect to Southern Africa. I think that at this point in time, we are setting up an inaugural board. And what I've shared with the other members is that I envisioned a transformed AAU SARO by 2028. And I mentioned in my remarks or my portfolio that the vision that I looking forward to is premised on the confluence of particularly two principles. One is the United Nations Global Compact and the Ubuntu principle. As I've mentioned, the vision is particularly anchored on the desire to transform AAU SARO's business responsibly by aligning our strategies and operations with the principles of human rights, labor, and the environment. Moreover, ladies and gentlemen, to drive strategic actions that advance broader societal goals such as the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the ESGs, while emphasizing collaboration and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, this particular vision draws on the inspiration of the Ubuntu principle, as I've mentioned, emphasizing, of course, the interdependence amongst people and the organizations and the societies that we serve. Now, it is delightful to observe the collective desire to enhance regional collaboration amongst member institutions. I agree that this may include, for example, fostering partnerships, influencing policy decisions, and promoting the value of higher education in a socio-economic development. I also believe that collectively, as an inaugural board, we seek to support the development of cutting-edge technologies and practices that addresses the unique challenges that are faced by African universities, including, of course, the issue that keeps coming up, quality education, infrastructure development, and digital divide and digital literacy. I also agree, Chair, of these proceedings with my fellow VCs that strengthening partnerships with government, NGOs, and industry and stakeholders will be vital in advancing sustainable solutions for higher education. Therefore, I would like to just urge fellow board members and the VCs that we work concertedly to chart the AAU SARO as a leader in advocating for policy reforms that enhances the autonomy and governance of universities, whilst, of course, ensuring inclusivity and equity in the higher education. I think, ladies and gentlemen, that by virtue of setting up this regional office, we recognize that AAU SARO's inherent capability to be recognized as a change agent and, of course, a catalyst for excellence in higher education in Southern Africa. Now, as I conclude, Chair, I believe that as board, we recognize the opportunities to collaborate with other regional organs and bodies through creating community of practice in various topical areas. I also agree with the fellow VCs that the key challenges that we face are addressing gaps in leadership and professional development at all levels of the higher education sector. Therefore, at this juncture, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all the newly appointed members, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you, and I yield back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor Professor Naumaba. I hope I'm pronouncing correctly the name. And thank you very much for setting your own agenda. And I'm very happy that the AAU Secretary General is listening to the pledges your new board is already setting up. They've set up that by 2028, your inaugural board is going to transform AAU SARO. So you already have your checklist, Secretary General say, from the chair, from the one of the appointed board members. He also raised the principle they are going to be following, the Ubuntu principle. I'm sure it augurs well with our heritage-based education, which we are also focusing as a country in our Vision 2030 agenda. They have also pledged that they are going to transform AAU SARO business responsibly. I emphasize, he said responsibly. And they are also going to be looking at issues of SDGs, innovations, and also interdependence amongst our nations in the region. They are also going to be looking or promoting collaborations and fostering partnerships. They are also going to be supporting the cutting-edge technologies to improve on our quality and to catch up with the 21st century. They are also going to be strengthening partnerships with the governments and other relevant institutions or organizations. They are also intend to be recognized as a change agent. They are also going to be collaborating with the regional organs, and also, which is key, which has been raised by our Chief Executive Officer for ZIMCHE and also the AAU Secretary General, they are also going to be addressing the gaps in higher education institutions. Secretary General said this was the presentation from your inaugural board. I'm now going to be calling upon Professor Chingarande to introduce our distinguished panelist, the UNESCO Chair for International Education and Development at the University of Nottingham in the United Kingdom, and also the head of the Europe AAU Regional Office. Professor Chingarande, ma'am.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. Again, it's a privilege for me to be introducing to you this outstanding woman who holds the UNESCO Chair in International Education and Development at the University of Nottingham in the UK, a head of the Association of African Universities Europe Regional Office, and co-convener of the Center for International Education Research. At the University of Nottingham, this woman serves as an associate professor of education and migration within the Center for International Education Research in the School of Education. Her academic pursuits focus on various aspects of education and migration, encompassing highly skilled migration, refugee education, the internationalization of higher education, and the intersections of education with human trafficking and modern-day slavery. She plays a pivotal role as a co-researcher on the organizational and research cultures in African universities, in short, OCA. Under that project, she leads the Zimbabwe chapter. She co-leads the Migration Slavery Nexus project for the Rights Lab Beacon of Excellence. Her contributions extend to serving on the editorial board of Compare, a renowned scholarly journal in education. Her career is characterized by a commitment to advance the understanding of and policies related to education and migration, particularly within the African context. And she continues to make significant contributions to research and academic discourse in these fields. Distinguished guests, help me to introduce to you and also welcome Professor Juliet Tondlana to speak to us. Over to you, Professor Tondlana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Vice-Chancellor Dominica Sunungurai Chingarande, for inviting me to be at this very groundbreaking event. I am particularly honored because I am based in the UK at the University of Nottingham, but I am from Zimbabwe, from Southern Africa. So I'm really honored to be here and to witness this amazing event as your child, daughter of the soil. I hope you can see me. I hope you can all hear me because I can't see myself. So I hope you can hear me clearly and I'm visible.
Yes,
somewhere.
Professor, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm honored to share the platform with, I call him my boss, Professor Olushola Oyewole. He has been teaching me, grooming me, giving advice, in the context of my role as head of the AAU Europe Regional Office, where we link colleagues, experts in Europe with experts in Africa on various partnerships, various projects to promote the agenda of the AAU to uplift the African higher education institutions. So I'm really honored today to be just sharing partly experiences coming from our Europe Regional Office, as well as experiences working with UNESCO as a UNESCO chair in international education and development. I would like to, I hope you can see the slides, just start by sharing from our experience what we see as the international role of an AAU regional office. And I am going to be focusing very much on the international aspect, looking at how we can leverage the principles of internationalization to do our job as a regional office. So, Professor Olushola Oyewole has already outlined what the AAU see as the role of their regional offices. So broadly, we are looking at partnerships, because, like in our case, in Europe, we link experts who are working in the context of Africa with African scholars so as to enhance and enrich the work that people are doing in Africa, whether they are on the continent or outside the continent. And, one of our key in putting people together to work together, we want to ensure that African scholarship is visible. We believe that there is a lot of, good work that is going on within the African academic sphere. But for one reason or the other, some of the reasons being historical and others being, existing, African scholarship is not very as visible as it ought to be in order for Africa to not only share this expertise across its 53 plus or minus nations, but also to contribute significantly to global development and to also augment voices of African scholars in that same vein, in terms of research, in terms of publications, in terms of the many projects, really good projects that are going on, in terms of curriculum development and transformation, in terms of teaching. And, we also thereby, look at collaborations as regional offices. We are wanting to promote collaborations, Africa working across Africa on joint projects and with the rest of the world, different parts of the world, where work that promote Africa as development is ongoing, and we can work together, attending conferences, co-teaching, co-researching, and we have already been told about, the need for supporting capacity strengthening of Africa's research, leadership, pedagogy, doctoral training, quality assurance, many other activities that are ongoing. Also, networking has been mentioned, advocacy. So we also, as regional offices, we also are able to, do some advocacy work. And in doing this, we always encourage and remind ourselves of the need to involve our African colleagues, because they are the key people to be doing that, and to interact with corporate and non-profit institutions, thinking about, development partners, working together to identify funding, secure funding for the many projects that we work on, keeping an eye on our grant applications, evaluating, the funding requests, just making sure that things are going the way they ought to do. We are pleased in Europe, and I'm sure here in Africa, that we now have a document that also helps to guide us in doing this, which is the Africa Charter for Transformative Collaborations, which was developed with a strong team from Africa, including the AAU and related institutions that work within the education sphere, and the University of Bristol in the UK, and we have been looking at that document. It's a fantastic document which we hope is going to be embraced across Africa and also across Europe. And moving forward, looking at what I've just been showing you, it's very clear, it goes without saying that our regional offices are very much international offices, and they also, which means that they engage with internationalization of higher education. And so when we think of internationalization of higher education, we are thinking about ensuring that we bring together the international aspects, intercultural and global dimensions into the purpose, functions, and delivery of higher education, in order for us to enhance the quality of our education, our teaching, our research for all our students and staff, as well as the community in general. So in doing this, it's important for us, particularly in the context of Africa, to understand the importance of the regional. So when we think of internationalization, we've become clearer and more, educated about what internationalization really is about. And so when we think of it, we are looking at the local, and I've highlighted local there because it is the critical context where internationalization should be taking place. We are thinking in relationship to the local. So by local, I mean, within the nations, within the individual countries themselves. We are thinking of the regional. So whether it's SADC, whether it's looking at West Africa, North Africa, and so on. In our case, Europe, and then we are thinking of the continent itself. So starting from our own country, we think regional, we think continental. We then go beyond, and we are thinking about the North, and we are thinking about our interactions with the North. We are also thinking about our interactions with other contexts beyond Africa. We are looking at Asia. We are looking at this South America. We are looking at the many other Middle East and so on. And therefore, it's very important for us to be I'm highlighting this, thinking about the role of our regional office. And so I just want to emphasize that we tend to associate internationalization with mobility, which is like, study abroad. And that has been the case for many years across the world. We tend to think of it as teaching in English. We tend to, think of it broadly as the presence of international students on our campuses, the presence of international staff on our campuses. But I would like to highlight that internationalization is actually not simply studying abroad. It is, study abroad. When we look at it and we are thinking within a country, just how many of our students are able to travel abroad to study abroad. Even here in the UK, in Europe in general, when you look at the statistics and you're thinking how many students actually have the privilege of going abroad and studying abroad, that it is a very, very small number of students around the world who are able to do that. So mobility needs to be seen as adding value to our curriculum, to what we are doing at home. So internationalization at home, hence the local, is far more important than the other ways that we can see ourselves as doing internationalization. So this is just to show you very briefly, the many things that people do when they are doing internationalization. I've already highlighted the issue of student staff. In some cases, like here at Nottingham, we even have international campuses, but we are increasingly learning that some of these things are not as critical as what we do at home. How even here in the UK is our curriculum internationalized enough so that the students who are coming from any part of the world, including our own students, are they experiencing internationalization? They can only do. Sorry?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know whether it's me. The slides are not moving.
Oh. Okay. Are you getting me? Just.
I'm getting you clearly. Very clear,
They are
but the
moving,
slide.
yeah.
Okay, they are not moving.
They are moving. No, they are
so
moving.
they are not moving for some and moving for others.
Maybe
So
it's for me, that's fine.
do you mind if I then share these at the end so that those who couldn't see can can look at them for themselves? Sure. I won't be taking long. I hope if I'm clear, then I could just continue in the interest of time and then share the slides. So, okay, thank you. So it is the curriculum that's critical. It is what we do at home, and our regional office here in SADC, as well as I'm thinking of our regional office also in Europe, is then a critical tool for internationalization. We are looking to because looking at if I just go back for those who can see the slides. I just want to go back to those roles. If we support our regional office well, and we cooperate with them in terms, the team that has been put in place today, it means that, we can mobilize ourselves around what we can do within SADC itself, Southern Africa, before we can, yes, we can continue to interact with the North. It's very important, but it is important that we come from a strong base where we are leveraging our own region, the diversity that we have in our own region in terms of strengths, in terms of skills, in terms of resources, in terms of even mobility, the mobility that we are talking about. You will find that if I take Zimbabwe, which I'm familiar with, we have more, students going into South Africa and other regional universities than we do have students who are going to the North, because it is more affordable in terms of traveling, in terms of, resource sharing, in terms of some of the affordances that our own regional partners are able to, to offer us. So we can strengthen our internationalization at home in the region, which will put us in a better place when we go beyond and we are interacting at higher levels across the continent, as well as across the other regions of the world. In the context of Priority Africa, whereby UNESCO has declared that Africa is lagging in terms of achieving or moving towards or progressing towards achieving UNESCO's Agenda 2030. It is very critical that Africa comes together and thinks about ways of how we can support each other within Africa itself, and how we can leverage our relationships beyond Africa, with Europe, with America, with Australia, and these other contexts from a position of strength. Having seen what we already have, I believe that within the region we understand better the challenges that we face, the issues that others may be seeing, and what UNESCO could have seen to declare Africa a priority and to focus on Africa, to support Africa. I think, our mantra of African solutions for African problems, this is a situation where institutions of higher education, which are critical for sustainable development, can work together within Southern Africa to see ways in which the issues that have been raised by UNESCO in the Priority Africa document can be best addressed. And therefore, reaching out to contexts such as Europe, and with clarity as to what Africa really needs, instead of the North coming to Africa to say, this is what you need. If we put our resources together, and we do have some, if we come together as Southern African institutions, we will be able to see where we can support each other, to see where we can learn from each other, and then what it is we may need from nations beyond the SADC, beyond Africa. So it is very important that we work together in the region. So I just wanted to emphasize that in the context of internationalization, the regional office is a critical tool for internationalization, and we will be looking to working together from Europe. Working together, we know there's a lot that as Europe we can learn from Southern Africa. We are already doing a lot of work within Southern Africa and learning a lot, actually borrowing ideas from Southern Africa. And we hope we can continue to do that to enhance the work that we do together in the context of the Association of African Universities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Tondlana, the UNESCO Chair for International Education and Development at the Nottingham University, and also the head of the AAU Europe office. The incoming board, I'm sure you have been listening, and already Professor Tondlana has already added again to what you can focus on as the Southern Regional Office Board. My immediate takeaway from Professor Tondlana's presentation is, I'm going to use it as a quote: the African solutions for African problems. As institutions of higher learning, we generate new knowledge. I'm sure what she has said gives us again an added item on our to-do list. She also raised the issue of regional offices of AAU being critical tools for internationalization as we also forge ahead with the internationalization agenda. And she also defined what internationalizations in institutions of higher learning should be. It's not just bringing in international students, as she was saying. It's critical that we also look at how internationalization at home, we do it in terms of our curriculum development. Thank you so much, Professor Tondlana, on this very rich presentation, and also a guide to the incoming board on the items they are going to include in their regional agenda or their regional strategic plan. You also raised the issue of the Africa Charter for Transformative Collaborations, which you also emphasized that Africa should embrace. So I'm sure the AAU SARO board will also be hunting for this document and tap on the issues you have raised. You also emphasized on issues of collaborations, doctoral training, and also being the voice of African scholars in terms of their research, teaching, and curriculum development. Gone are the days to have research outputs in the drawers. As long as they are not visible, they are not going to play any useful issue in as far as the development of our nations is concerned. We want to convey again our sincere thank you for sparing this time to this new baby for Professor Chingarande. I'm sure she's now rich and having a lot of material to synchronize and come up with a summarized agenda for AAU SARO. Thank you so much, Professor Tondlana. I am now going to call upon Professor Elizabeth Chikwiri, the Women's University in Africa Pro Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs and Research, to give us a vote of thanks in this rich presentation, where the purpose of the meeting was really to introduce WUA as the regional office for the Association of African Universities in the Southern Africa region, and also to put up governance structures, because the responsible business presentation which the newly appointed board member raised cannot happen if our governance is fluid. So this board is supposed to enhance and strengthen the governance of the AAU SARO board, and also to be inclusive as a region. We don't want to be seen to be running the WUA agenda when we are talking about the Southern Africa regional agenda. So the purpose of the board is to ensure that every country is going to be bringing higher education issues on the table and they become part of your agenda. Professor Chikwiri, the mic is on you, Madam Pro Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, Director of Ceremony, the AAU Secretary General, Professor Oyewole, the ZIMCHE CEO, Professor Jimbo, the Women's University in Africa Vice Chancellor, Professor Sunungurai Chingarande, the UNESCO Chair, International Education and Development at the Nottingham University in the United Kingdom, and Head of AAU Europe Regional Office, Professor Juliet Tondlana, the SARUA Executive Director, Professor Stephen Simukanga, AAU SARO Board, Southern Africa Region Vice Chancellors, ladies and gentlemen. I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. We have come, deliberated, and put in place a framework for the future of higher education in Southern Africa. This would not have been possible without our visionary leaders of the AAU and Women's University in Africa, who saw collaboration and devolution of tasks as a strength than a weakness. Let us hit the ground running and be the voice of higher education that produces a cadre who fits into the 21st century. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to congratulate the newly appointed AAU SARO board and pledge Women's University in Africa support and commitment as your secretariat in driving this vision. I want to convey our appreciation to the vice chancellors of the 11 SADC countries that responded to the call to be part of the establishment of the regional governance structures. We call upon Botswana, Comoros, Madagascar, Mozambique, and Seychelles to come on board. The academic train is moving, and our wish is not to leave any university behind. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to also convey our sincere appreciation to our distinguished panelists who not only have vast knowledge in the academia, but have interest in lifting the young academics through development programs. Let us take advantage of such a resource and capacitate our institutions. Last but not least, I want to convey our sincere thanks to the team, both at Women's University in Africa and AAU Ghana, for organizing such a tremendous event. Indeed, if you want to achieve more in academia, walk alone. But if you want to be great in academia, collaborate and enhance your strength. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Chikwiri, for the vote of thanks. And this is the end of our program. I'm sure the newly appointed board, we are going to be receiving official appointment letters from the AAU Secretary General. And also you are now going to be collaborating or discussing with Professor Chingarande, who is the head of the Secretariat, on how then to organize your structures and to come up with meetings in preparedness of the launch of the AAU SARO office, which is scheduled for 27 September. All Vice Chancellors here present and those who did not manage to attend are also invited to this event. We are also going to be publicizing a leadership capacity development program, which AAU is going to be running prior to the launch of the AAU SARO office. We will be circulating that information to all Vice Chancellors. I want to thank you so much for sparing the time to attend to this important event in as far as higher education in the Southern Africa is concerned. Thank you so much, and let's keep the momentum and also advise our Vice Chancellors in all the issues affecting higher education in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice day. And thank you for the initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Well done.
Thank you to the organizers.
Thank you for your
We're going. Well done. You were so. I'm present for the job.
Yes, proceed, Secretariat. And then.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's been a wonderful meeting.
Yes.
Freedom, According to easy and breezy and sunless and stormy and lead us both with virtues and love for sin. He resides for strong, with beauty and truth, with us in return. Teaching and learning in all his goodness and causes. With our fingers AAU, the pillar of higher learning, standing up against developments. AAU, one of which noble purpose, stream of machine, your higher education. Africa's intellectuals and craftsmen are focused to achieve the freedom. Lead us forth with virtues and loves for sin. He resides for joy, with beauty and return. Teaching and learning in all disciplines and courses. Forming our fingers as we